We weren't sure how people will react talking to an AI interviewer. We were surprised to see that, people seem to be very comfortable, doing so. In some cases, they've said that they feel like more comfortable actually sharing something because it's an AI interview, it's an actual human. So they may be like more honest, let's say, in their responses.
What we seek shapes what we build. This is If You Seek by Gooseberry. Hello, Costa. Welcome to If You Seek. I've been looking forward to this one. Your story is a fascinating mix of serendipity, exploration, and intentional craft, from studying economics, transitioning to AI, where you found your passion for human-computer interactions. Your work spans multiple industries, and now you're leading product design and research at Next Insurance, driving innovation in a highly complex and regulated space. What really stands out is your ability to lead through change, whether that's adopting emerging tools like AI, building high performing cross functional teams, or making design a strategic force inside companies. So there's a lot, and I'm excited to get into it today, especially how you're thinking about the evolving role of designers, team culture, and the very real ways AI is shaping our work. Are you ready to share some thoughts?
I'm ready. Hi, Nicole. I'm stoked to be here. Thank you. And thank you, Useberry team, for having me. Yes, let's do it.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with what's on everyone's radar, the rise of AI. You've led teams through different waves of tech change, I'm sure. And with AI, we're seeing a new layer of complexity, from the speed to evolution to the way it challenges how we define design itself. So, how do you see it affecting the design world today?
Wonderful question. I tend to think about this not so much about the design world specifically, but overall how the product development process works. This is a lot about how we bring people from different functions to work together. And whether it is design or product management, engineering, data science, marketing, you name it, AI is leaving its mark on each of those functions and essentially influences how we work together. So one area where I see that this is changing the dynamic of how we work together is getting ideas out of the door a lot faster. So generally looking at the design process, I feel like it's been flipped on its head. And where before it was like, you would start from discovery to lo-fi designs to iterations, and then at some point having confidence into more high fidelity prototyping. Now all that is pretty much flipped on its head, and you see designers themselves or even other functions being able to bring their ideas to life and expedite essentially the discovery process with very lifelike real applications that you can quickly test with your target audience and then inform the process subsequently. So that is a really exciting development in my opinion, and one that really creates space for design to really shine in their, like being drivers of the strategic thinking behind the work, and focus less on things that have to do with pushing pixels and prototyping, because all those things now can be done a lot faster and in some cases a lot easier as well. If I compare this to the world today, or let's say before AI or without using AI, our experiences, like what we usually tend to give users to play with and for us to gain insights, are typically like click through prototypes. So like we give them some flows and they will have go click, and so they will start to do tasks, and then we will assess how usable those experiences are. And now if I look at what we do here at Next, the experiences we create for people, they're not just clicks. We require input from them. And therefore, the experiences are more dynamic. And that's a current limitation we have with, let's say, when using a tool like Figma to put a prototype together, it works, but it's not the same thing as having an actual experience where you can type in something. For instance, select from different components and modes of interaction. You can do those things, but it takes so much more time in doing that in a tool like that versus now maybe using tools like ReZero, Bolt, and so on. And you can just bring those ideas to life very quickly. That's a big area where I see AI making an impact and leave its mark.
Okay, so there's been a lot of conversation about AI replacing designers, not just within design circles, of course, but across the tech industry. What is your take on this?
It's been a lot, yes. And going back to what I was saying earlier, you can argue the same thing for every other function, right? Like, will AI replace product managers? Will AI replace engineers? So in general, like I'm fairly optimistic about where things are going. I think at the highest level, when I look at design teams and their structure and their size, in a world where AI becomes more prominent in the way we do things, I expect that teams will remain relatively flat, in my opinion, if not somewhat a little bit smaller in size. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you think about it, again, going back to like product development, I think, in my opinion, there are like three large buckets of work that we do. The most critical one, the most important one is, strategic work, like, big 0 to 1 features or like new products we bring to life, things that are very, highly complex to build or to find solutions for, highly ambiguous as problem spaces. Then there's a bucket of work, which is more feature level work. Maybe you already have an existing product, a feature, you're trying to optimize something, like, something is not working well, you're trying to fix that, or you're providing more value in an existing problem space. And then you have like a bucket of work, which is even like, like addressing, let's say, technical and design debt and doing some foundational work to support everything else. So when I look at those three different buckets of work, the area where I see that still is not so much, if you like, upended by AI is the large strategic efforts. And that is where I anticipate to see more the role of design continuing to drive those initiatives. So in this AI powered world, I'm looking at this as shifting our energy, essentially, from the low level pushing pixels, going back to what I was saying earlier, what some other people may see design as doing, into the more strategic realm of work. But that's not easy for every designer to do. And when you look at the spectrum of different skill sets and different levels of designers, it's usually like the more senior designers who can do this. So I see like where I believe things are going is that teams, likely from a structure point of view, will be comprised primarily from more like senior folks on the team, because that's what the expectation will be from design, to provide that strategic thinking, facilitation efforts, the opportunity to create empathy, all those things that we're doing very well. But the parts of the work will be more execution oriented, like prototyping, policing, like all those things. They will be so easy to do or maintain with AI in the mix, which creates less opportunity, I think, for more like entry to mid-level designers, or for someone who's like earlier on their career stage. So that's one prediction I'm making, that teams will likely tend to be more senior level concentrated, which I think is an interesting challenge. In my experience, the more diverse the team is, and the more diverse it is, and there's like a healthy balance between the different levels of team members it has in, the better, because that provides opportunities for growth, provides opportunities for people to challenge each other, not necessarily from the same starting point. So overall, I feel like it's a healthier mix. to compare to have like a more like concentrated team structure. So that's something that I believe, design leaders like myself, we have to face the challenge on how we influence the direction of how teams are being built and are being structured in this world.
Okay, you say that juniors, let's say the entry level, will need to jump up to the senior position. It's kind of like a loop, I think. So, and loops tend to, roll. So it just needs to keep on rolling. I think
Yeah,
it's a never-ending thing. I guess yeah, it's very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And I think many listeners will find that reassuring, let's say, and but also challenging in a way, but in the best way. I guess we
in the
can
best
all
way. Yeah.
become, yeah, yeah. All right. So, up next, are there specific tasks or processes your team used to handle manually that are now being automated or supported by AI? Like, what kind of impact has that had on output, on roles, on team expectations? You talked a bit on that a bit, but if you can, yeah, give us some more insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say for the most part, I think it's more like supported by AI, not so much automated at this stage, although I think we have like good examples of how we can automate some things with AI. But it's been like now maybe a little over a year, I think, that we've really dipped our toes into leveraging AI power tools and just being curious about it, because I think that's a very important mindset to have in this world, is to exhibit curiosity, go with like let's check it out, let's see, does this work for us, and let's develop a point of view versus like relying on someone else's or trends we see out there in the market. So when I look at the breadth of things we do, I'd say research is definitely an area that has seen the most impact from AI, and where we see like daily, essentially, support from AI. Whether it is to help like design research studies, or whether it is to use it to analyze recordings, data, transcripts, you name it, and just being that co-pilot in a way where it speeds up essentially the process of developing good insights to that further inform what we do at the company. That's I'd say that's the biggest area where we see AI supporting our work today. On the more the design side of things, as I mentioned, we're just entering like the world of prototyping more. This like new tools, and again like getting to more real lifelike applications that we can test with customers or prospects in our case. Copywriting is something that we see a strong AI being a strong companion to designers, although I must say I find it very valuable as a tool, but still, it needs not just this, but everything we do with AI needs that level of supervision, someone with the right expertise to see it through the end. You can't just take the output of AI and just use it the way it is. It's, I think, very dangerous to do so.
I agree.
So in the case of research, it's an actual like researcher of the team who is using that tool, but ensures that there's no bias in that. There are no made up things. So we're building, if you like, guardrails on how to ensure that the output from AI is actually something that is reliable and can be trusted. So to the example of copywriting, I still feel like we have like good options being generated, but at the end of the day, we're working with an actual copywriter to really come up with the right copy or messaging that we need to involve in an experience. And these are like a few examples, quick examples of how AI supports our work today at Next.
These are great examples. It's one thing to talk about AI broadly, that you hear a lot about it. But these things, the kind of things that are concrete, and they shift what what happens on the ground, let's say. All right, real quick before we jump back in, you know how product teams are always trying to move faster and research teams are trying to move smarter? Well, Useberry actually helps you do both. It lets you run quick remote user tests, and honestly, they're just as easy to run as they are to share. No bottlenecks, no endless waiting around, and definitely no more guessing. It's just research that moves at the speed of product. Check it out at useberry.com. Okay, now that we've explored some of the big shifts, I want to turn the focus to something more human, the culture behind the work. What have you found works well when it comes to building or maintaining a strong team culture?
Great question. And I love the focus on, being human. At the end of the day, that's all there is. So for me, it's like things are really simple, although not easy to do. But I think what I've seen as the main areas to invest in building and maintaining great team culture is creating that space for psychological safety and leading with intentionality and transparency. This is, for me, this is a one-way street. There's no other way to do this. You have to do things, intentionally. You have to show genuine care for people, to come across in a very authentic way. One thing that really stuck with me over time when I was empowering design at Gusto a few years back. Gusto is a place that is obsessed with how we treat people across the board, whether it is employees, like our customers, and so on, and has almost developed its own vocabulary of how to address certain situations. So, for example, at Gusto, there's no human resources team. No one talks about human resources, or no one is talking about people as they're numbers on the spreadsheet or resources and so on. No one typically we're called managers, right? People who manage teams. But at Gusto, that word doesn't exist. That term doesn't exist. So if you manager is being replaced with people empowerer, or people management is people empowerment, and manager is called a PE. All those things are put in place, and everyone is really obsessed with those things to ensure that this is how you show you care about someone, essentially. And it's those little details that really make huge difference, I think, in someone's experience and motivation and feeling great in their role and where they are. So that's something that I really first encountered there, but then I carried over. Since then, it's been now probably 4 or 5 years have passed. From that point in time, I've never used the word, I manage people ever. Or always, if you ask me, I'll say, Kostas, what do you do? I would say, I empower a team of designers and researchers, for example. And that always, I've noticed that, clicks with people. People will tell me, hey, I noticed that you say, the word empower. What does that mean? And so on. And you see that this sparks curiosity in other people, right? So that's why I think these little details do make a big difference. But yeah, at the end of the day, is about treating people as the humans they are, creating that space where people can be themselves, open up themselves, so you can have genuine interactions with them. And it's not always going to be about positive stuff. The work is a place where conflict can happen, lots of tension can arise from cross-functional collaboration, or between team members. All those things can crop up, but that's where great culture really shows up. In those moments, how have you set up the team to manage those situations? How do you handle conflict? How do you ensure that people can speak up and resolve things in good, positive ways? And it starts with us. We need to lead with transparency and just show the path forward in those cases.
The word empowerment really stuck to me. It's it's like you're inheriting it. So it's like it's becoming part of you. That's
Exactly.
how I felt it. Yeah. Very nice. Very interesting.
It's a contagious in a way. Like, like
Yeah.
to me, like, you hear it, now you use it, and
Yeah.
then it's, it goes like that.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so have you faced any specific challenges in preserving team culture? You touched a bit upon that, some conflicts or that, I guess they make you stronger as well. um, what used to come easily that now takes more effort, perhaps?
I'd say in my experience, when you have a chance to build a team from the ground up, and I've had that chance in a couple of occasions in the past, it's way easier to both build and also preserve the team culture, because at the end of the day is, you together with the team have built that, and over time it's, it becomes easier if this is something that you have all contributed to over time. But that's not always the case. There have been many cases also in my career where I've, let's say, inherited a team. Like there's a team in place already, and I'm stepping in to continue empowering and growing the team. And in those moments, it's a lot different than a team that you have helped shape from scratch in this case. So in those situations is, what I found handy, if you like, or helpful to preserve team culture in those situations is, first of all, to understand what the team culture is. So you're stepping into a new role, you're inheriting this team, you're most likely at a new company, so you must step back and just get to know your people, be very observant about, hey, like, what is the culture here, see like what are things that you opportunities that you can find to improve the culture further, or things you want to change, and then yes, slowly work your way into making those changes happen. I find that in those situations, it's more challenging to do so, because a lot of it hasn't been your, let's say, contribution or work. So it's important to understand where things are, what makes people click already, and then build upon that. And you may have to forget about what might have worked in the past. There are, different teams, different companies, something that from your playbook that has worked in another place or for another team may not be applicable in another team that you find yourself empowering. Yeah, so being flexible around that is really key. So be curious and just look out for signals all the time. In today's world, we have many tools that can help us find opportunities to make things better for people. If you look at employee engagement surveys, which are very common within workplaces, but also, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about leading with intentionality and leading by example. It starts with with us again. Like for me, it's I intentionally make myself vulnerable to everybody else that I work with, whether it is my team or my cross-functional peers, whoever it is at the company. I constantly will ask for or push people to give me like constructive feedback, just like own my mistakes or seek opportunities always to find out where can we do better, where can I be better in helping others in terms of building that strong team culture.
Yes, that's let's say real insights and honest insights. Let's say so, being vulnerable, pushing to get even the negative feedback. I guess that's really important.
That's the most important thing. Well, for anything, constructive feedback is the best you can get.
Yeah. Do you have any rituals or small practices that help your team stay connected or inspired, motivated? Even seemingly small things, like how you start a meeting or celebrate a win, could play a big role.
During the week, we have a couple of regular design critique times. Design critiques are very interesting forums. So usually they can be really good, but they can also like be really, really bad. We use a specific framework to make design critiques more more effective. Like one thing I've seen and observed in critiques in the past is that usually they tend to be dominated by people with loud voices, like people who are more, maybe they're more extrovert oriented, maybe more strongly opinionated. And it tends to become like maybe like you have a room of 7, 8 people, and it becomes like a debate between 2 people. And that's not what you want at the end of the day. So we have adopted a framework called Thinking Hats. And if you Google it up, you'll see there's plenty of literature around it. But essentially what it does is that it provides structure to the format of a design critique. And most importantly, it gives everyone a voice and everyone a specific mindset, if you like, to use when providing feedback for a specific design or experience that we're critiquing. So, for example, there's a hat, like the white hat, where everybody gets to ask clarifying questions. There's the yellow hat, which I think is the positive feedback. Everyone needs to provide at least one positive feedback for the design. There's the black hat, which is the constructive feedback about design. And there are different hats or mindsets which continue the process. And that levels the playing field. So it doesn't become now, okay, like someone will dominate the conversation, because this can't happen. We have to go around the room, we'll collect feedback from everyone. So you see those, let's say, undesired behaviors not showing up anymore. And it tends us to focus more on the feedback and nothing else, really. And one thing that I usually do there, because oftentimes, like I feel that if I say something, because of my role, some people may like think that, okay, if Kostas is saying something, may tend to agree with that, right? And I don't know if it's happening, but I don't want that to happen. So something that I do is that, and I usually like say it in front of the room, is that I'll go last. Because I don't want people to color what they want to share because they've heard my opinion about something or my feedback about something. And the other thing we do there is that basically we have opened up this to basically pretty much everyone, but typically it's engineers will be there, PMs will be there, and that makes for a much better collaboration and critique process.
An example comes to mind. So this is, let's say, a real setup in the outside world, not in a work environment. That you just go out for a coffee with a few friends. If everyone can talk and everyone can participate actively, you feel part of the group. I don't know if it's if you've ever felt it, or I'm sure people will understand this, but like you see that some people dominate a conversation, but when it's all everyone has a voice, it's more interesting. You want to stay more. You're having fun. So yeah, great example.
Yeah, agreed.
Nice. I'd love to hear how AI actually fits into your team's day-to-day work. Can you walk us through a real example of how your team uses AI in your work today? Whether it's user research, the interviews, or something else. What does that process look like?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think user research is probably the area that we've seen the most impact from AI, or I'd say the area where we very actively use AI pretty much on a daily basis. We found that it's a great companion tool to what the researchers and designers do. So the example that comes to mind is how I think we've been able to scale and up level our research practice through AI. And that involves a couple of things. One is just using tools like, ChatGPT or another like LLM to help analyze large, data sets, transcripts, all those kinds of things, help with the structure of and design of studies. But one really interesting area that we're almost a year running this. We started with a pilot, but we quickly saw like really great results from that. And we ended up adopting this as a regular tool in our research process. is using AI for interviews. So we're talking about conducting interviews with target customers, prospects. We usually work with small business owners or insurance agents in the world of Next, and talking to them and hearing from them is super critical in what we do in order to understand their pain points, in order to understand where we can provide value and offer value to them. But interviews are not easy to do. They take time, and you can't just do like a large number of them easily without this taking like forever to do. And there are so many touch points that you want to get someone's perspective and input to help implement insights. So that's where we found, like around a year ago, this small startup, Genway, building an AI interviewer product, and we decided to give it a go and see how it works for us. And it has worked really, really well. It's also been fun to be part of the process and help that team build a better product by giving them feedback about what works, what doesn't work, what we would like it to see doing, and other things. But we use Genway to essentially interview different target customers at different touch points along their either like product experience or even outside of that. That's to be clear, this is not replacing us doing actual interviews with people. It just allows us to do more of that, and at a larger scale, and then also an opportunity for us to compare, like what do we learn from human to human interviews, and what do we learn from an AI interviewer interviewing another human, and like do those match? Like, are we learning the same things? Does AI work in those situations? And what we've learned is that for the most part, it works really well. But as I was saying earlier, there are areas where you need to be careful about, and you need that expertise and supervision to ensure that you leave out the parts that they may be inaccurate, if you like, or not so much valuable at the end of the day. We've also observed a few interesting things by doing that. For example, we weren't sure how people will react talking to an AI interviewer. Like, would they even do it? We were surprised to see that people seem to be very comfortable doing so. In some cases, they've said that they feel like more comfortable actually sharing something because it's an AI interview, it's an actual human, so they may be like more honest, let's say, in their responses. But on the flip side, one thing we observed is that when someone is responding to a question from an AI interviewer, they tend to be less verbose. So they don't have an issue like sharing something, but they will share less. Or they will be like, they will use like just a few words to give like a response back. And these are things that in a scenario where like it's a human interview, you might probe more into something, right? Or like as a researcher, you may this might be an opportunity for you to dig in more, whereas the AI interviewer will go to the next question, for example, or the next part of the script, missing that opportunity. So there are still like things to make it better, and then it comes back to how you prompt the study, how you train the interviewer to do better in those situations. But it has been a very interesting journey doing that, and something that we've seen, being very impactful. At least I would say for quick surveys, like you need to talk to someone for a few minutes, not like deep, complex situations. But for quick feedback and input, that's been a very highly successful story for us.
Yeah, I really like how you broke that down. So I guess the AI in the team is getting really real. I see, it's becoming a part of our life so much. So, and it's really helpful. You can accomplish so many things easier, faster. Very interesting. Okay, let's wrap up with something, let's say, lasting. So I want to end on a reflective note. This isn't about what tool is next or what method is trending. It's about what sticks. So, of all the things design and research have taught you about people, about systems, even about yourself, what lesson keeps showing up? Something that continues to shape how you lead, create, or simply how you move through our world.
Thank you for creating the space for that. As I think more about it, it comes down to just living your life with intentionality. Like take every moment and make it count. I guess the lesson for me is that my measure of fulfillment, so to speak, is that I've been in a moment with someone and I've made it a valuable moment and experience for them and for me. I did my best to show up the best I can, be there, be present, and yeah, just have a great outcome at the end of the day. Not only by the way I measure that, like how I feel, but to leave that moment and know that somehow know or feel that the person that I had, the interaction with, they got what they needed. I helped them in some way move forward. So that's what I really invest my energy, if I can. It's not always easy, but that's the lesson I continuously come back to and reflect upon. How do I feel? How do I think? I believe that the other person feels or felt. So yeah, so leading with that intentionality is what is basically the key lesson to me, and just be human.
That's such a powerful note to close on. Thank you for sharing something so personal and enduring.
Absolutely.
Costa, thank you so much for this conversation. What really stands out is how clearly you connect the strategy and the humanity parts, whether it's around AI, leadership, or culture. Yeah, thanks so much.
Nicole, it's been a pleasure. I had a wonderful time. Thanks again to you and the team for giving me the opportunity to be part of your podcast series.
All right. To everyone tuning in, we'll drop links in the show notes to learn more about Costa's work and how to connect further. Thanks for listening to If You Seek. See you next time. For more exciting content, follow us on our social channels. Your reviews mean the world to us, so don't forget to leave one. And of course, hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If You Seek is a platform for discussions and personal insights. The opinions presented by guests are independent and do not represent the official position of the host, Redewsbury, or our sponsors.